We're here after what I can politely call one of the 5 most frustrating games of the Kevin O'Connell head coaching era. Not putting this one entirely on Kevin O'Connell, not putting it entirely on JJ McCarthy, not putting it entirely on any one person, anybody in particular, but my goodness, 27-19 loss to Baltimore. You don't need to do the Ravens any favors when they are desperate, when Lamar Jackson is healthy, when they are back to playing better football. But the Vikings did them so many favors today in this loss that, frankly, they looked annoyed at each other. They looked annoyed pretty much from the middle of the second quarter on, when things started to downward spiral. And this is mostly an offensive problem. I know they gave up 27 points, but you give Baltimore that many possessions, that many opportunities. You give them the chance to grind you down because you can't sustain drives. You give Lamar Jackson great field position because you lose the turnover battle 3-0. This is going to happen. So if the question coming into this game was, hey, what was last week real? Can they build on that? They're 4-4. They got JJ McCarthy back. They got their tackles back. Can they play like that? Is that more indicative of who they are than some of the poor play, the sloppiness that we've seen from them for much of the rest of the season? The answer, at least as it was answered today, was a resounding no. That was a pathetic performance by the Vikings. JJ McCarthy was awful. I'm just going to say he was awful. He didn't complete 50% of his passes again. Throws 2 interceptions, could have been a third, was spared when a call was overturned. It was iffy in the fourth quarter. Let them at least get within a score. He was awful. His accuracy was dismal. His decision making was almost as bad. Threw 2 interceptions. He ran for 48 yards. A lot of that was on the last desperation drive, which was, again, terrible. 20 of 42. That's just not going to get it done. I know it's his 4th start. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm saying his performance today was terrible. 8 false starts. 8 false starts. What is going on for a team that gave up, at 13 accepted penalties against them, including 8 false starts. One of them on the very last drive. Felt like there was one on almost every drive in this game. One person jumped. It was 6 different people that committed the 8 false starts. I don't know if it's a cadence thing. I don't know if it's everybody's not on the same page. That can't happen. That's embarrassing. That's players. That's coaches. That's everybody. This game was lost in multiple ways, I'm sure. When you have it was back and forth for a while at least, but to me, this game gets lost in the second quarter and early third quarter when the Vikings try to get cute, try to do too much with situations. You're up 10-3. You forced the Ravens to punt. You've got the ball up 10-3. You've scored on 2 of your first 3 possessions. The other one was a 3-and-out that ended with a pass back to McCarthy from Justin Jefferson. Got 10 yards. Probably could have been better if the blocking was better. So it was pretty well executed. Still kind of a fancy play for drive 2, putting your quarterback out there at risk a little bit. But anyway, that ended up being number 25 on my list of concerns in this game. So they've forced Baltimore to punt. They've got the ball. Aaron Jones gets 6 yards on first down. Then it's 11 yards to Jefferson. Hey, then a false start, of course. Incomplete pass. Then you get to 3rd and 6 from the Vikings 37. And McCarthy looks like he had room to run on this play. He did a good job of stepping up. Looked like he had room to run. Instead, heaves it up into double coverage. Ball gets intercepted. Now, it's effectively has the effect of a punt, right? With 28 yards plus, it was 41 yards of field position exchanged on the play because the runner was ruled down. Starks was ruled down at the 22. Thought McCarthy could have tucked and run there. That's a decision. That will probably get better with time. But that was kind of the beginning of not the beginning of the end, but the beginning of the end, because that was all of a sudden it's like, okay, McCarthy was in a pretty good groove up until that point, but then he makes that mistake. He throws into double coverage when it looks like he could have run for it, could have run for a first down, keep that clock moving, keep the ball away from Baltimore, keep the momentum on your side. Baltimore gets a field goal on that drive. Vikings' next drive go 3 and out, started with 1:11 on the clock. They pass to Addison for 5 on the first play. They run up and snap the ball way too fast. Baltimore's got 2 timeouts left. Run some clock there. Get it down to about 35 seconds before you snap it, because then you're still in that in-between zone. It's at the 35. You're probably not going to do anything better. I was at the 40, actually. They're probably not going to do anything better than get a field goal in this situation, right? You're not probably playing for a touchdown. You're playing for a field goal. But they go quick. They go incomplete to Addison, so now it's 3rd and 5. Not an accurate throw by McCarthy. Next pass, incomplete again. They have to punt it away. Baltimore doesn't have to use any timeouts. Baltimore gets the ball back. They end up scoring a field goal. They get it. So it's 10-9 at the end of the half when the Vikings should have been up more. You can't play with fire. You can't play like that against the Ravens. They're too good. They're too good. You can't let them off the hook like that. You can't play that way. You can't let them have so many chances to stay in a game. They're too good. You got to capitalize more. You can't be giving away possessions. You can't be giving away opportunities, but they did. So it's 10-9 at halftime when really it felt like it was Vikings by 7. That was the advantage I felt like they played for much of the first half. Instead, they go to the locker room up 1. But they get the ball to start the second half, right? It's like, okay, a chance to change momentum again. They still have to feel reasonably good about themselves. The defense is held in the red zone. It's 3 field goals. I think it's the first time in like a year, maybe more than a year, when a healthy Lamar Jackson's been held without a touchdown in a quarter or and a half. So there you go. So it's 10-9. They get the ball coming out of the gate, and then they're playing great. They're running the ball beautifully. Jones for 17 on the very first play of the second half. Very first play from scrimmage. Great. 5-yard run to Jones. Addison, 4 yards on a sideline pass. He makes a nice move. It's 3rd and half a yard. It is 3rd and half a yard. And Kevin O'Connell, in his infinite genius wisdom, dials up a shot play. Now, listen, I know that if this would have worked, we would have said, what a great play, right? I know how this works. I know the second guessing a lot of times is outcome based. Yes, I know Justin Jefferson was singled up deep. Yes, I know that usually in those situations, there can be an expected good outcome. It's either going to be a catch, pass interference, something good can come from that. And if it's merely incomplete, you've got a chance to go for it on 4th and half a yard. What I'm saying is this. You've got a young quarterback. You've got a guy who's trying to establish momentum. He's trying to establish a rhythm on offense. Just do the simple thing. Just try to get the first down. You're at midfield. You're getting momentum going again. Just do the simple thing. Try to get the first down. I don't know if you don't trust your offensive line to get a first down in that situation. I don't know if you think you have to win with these chunk plays all the time. Whatever the case, McCarthy throws deep for Jefferson. It's designed. It's one-on-one. It's a much better decision than the double coverage throw from the first half. But feet get tangled up. Jefferson goes down. Jefferson, by the way, probably one of the worst games I've seen him play in purple also. So not just McCarthy, not just Kevin O'Connell making some curious decisions, not just everybody jumping on the offensive line. I think Jefferson had one of the 8 false start penalties too. One of the worst games I've seen him play. He was terrible in this game too. Dropped a potential touchdown pass. He was just not, the energy he brought into this game seemed weird to me. He didn't play well. And that play was a perfect example. He falls down, gets his feet tangled up. That's usually a play he thrives on. So I get it to a certain degree. I also think, you know what? Just be simple. It's 3rd and half a yard. What about quarterback sneak? What about a quick play up the middle with Jordan Mason? You got all your offensive linemen back. You've got everybody back. You're ready to reestablish this kind of pound it style. You want to have different play styles. You want to be able to win different ways. And what do? You throw the ball deep on 3rd and half a yard from the 50. The ball is intercepted. Ball's intercepted predictably, not because that's what happens when you throw deep to Justin Jefferson, but predictably because that's what you get sometimes when your hubris dominates beyond just what you should do in the context of the game flow. I don't even know if they would have got it on 4th and inches. But anyway, 3rd and half a yard, you throw an interception. Ravens pick it off. They bring the ball back to the 20, 27, 29-yard line. They end up kicking a field goal. You hold them there at least, but 12-10. That's their first lead of the whole game, and they never relinquish the lead. You get Miles Price fumbling the ensuing kickoff, touchdown. Price fumbles again, and then his teammate picks it up. He fumbles too. Somehow they maintain possession, but they go 5 plays, 6 yards, turn it over on downs. They get a gift when Baltimore misses a long field goal. They turn that into a field goal of their own, so 19-13, but Baltimore goes touchdown right after that. So it was just a mismatch of bad game planning. There's got to be something like J.J. McCarthy's best routes are intermediate routes. Those are his best throws. And I feel like everything is either really long or really short right now. And I don't understand that. I don't understand that at all. You got it to 27-19. You made the Ravens punt. You got it back with like a minute 40 left, but it was too little too late. The ball was at like the 7 because of yet another special teams penalty. You didn't move it much further than the 35 or 40. Another false start on that. So it just comes down to what are you doing out here? What is going on out here? How do you play like that after playing the way they did a week ago in Detroit? How do you go from crisp and ready to play to so sloppy in this game? I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I think McCarthy's got moxie. I think he's got it factor. Worried about his accuracy. I'm worried about his accuracy right now because you can only teach accuracy so much. If he's sped up, maybe that gets better when he slows down. If he's sped up, if he's moved off his spot, all of those things. But it didn't seem to me like protection was the problem in a lot of cases. It was a confluence of things. One of those things being he just flat out missed some throws and he flat out made some bad decisions. And again, his 4th career start. I know he's young. I'm not writing him off. I'm just saying that was a concerning game. That was a concerning J.J. McCarthy game to see him go 20 for 42, to get picked off twice, to deserve to be picked off a 3rd time because it was a bad decision. Didn't see the safety, dropping into coverage. And there you have it. So concerned about that. Concerned about the inconsistency of this team. 4-5 now. All the penalties. It just doesn't look like a well-coached team right now. I'm not putting that all on O'Connell. Not saying a well-coached team is always the fault of a coach or to the benefit of a coach. Sometimes you just have the right players, the right mix. They just looked annoyed with each other. They looked something was tense about it in a lot of spots. Adam Thielen getting, going ballistic for getting called for that, crackback block, the illegal blindside block. That was a blindside block. I don't know what he was upset about because he leveled the guy and he wasn't looking. Like, that's a blindside block. So I don't know why he was so fired up about that. Maybe it's because his role in the offense is virtually non-existent. I don't know what it is, but they look tense today. McCarthy's trying to get them all fired up, but something was off. Something was very off in this game. Robin says, let me guess, KOC will come out and say, I didn't have the guys ready to play today. Haven't listened yet, but some variation of that is probably coming, right? There's going to be something about play style. There's going to be something about we've got to clean up the little things we can't keep off schedule, things like that. I've got to be better. We've all got to be better. Those things are all true. I'm not saying they're not true, but they do feel a little hollow sometimes when you're talking about a game that was this sloppy. Min Independent coming through StreamYard says, can Hawkinson get any deeper than 5 yards downfield? He's not the same player since the injury. That's a good point. He has not been explosive this season. They're not using him in ways that are very explosive. Felt like he had really good chemistry with McCarthy during training camp. I think Addison was the only one that I felt like had even better chemistry. You remember Jefferson missed a lot of camp. with that hamstring. So Hawkinson, though, has been a non-factor in a lot of these cases. He had, say, 2 catches for 8 yards today, both of them for 4 yards. I mean, that's not explosive. That's not explosive at all. I mean, Naylor had a really good game. He had 124 and a touchdown. Addison, he had a 26-yarder catch and run. Jefferson, his longest catch was 11. He was targeted 12 times, only 4 catches. That's tough. Like, they ran the ball fine. It feels like they go away from the run a lot of times when they're having success. Like, Jones 9 for 47, Mason 4 for 25. Like, that's 13 for 72 from your running backs. You added McCarthy's 48 yards. They ran it 18 times for 120 yards, 6.7 average, and then they throw it 42 times. And to get, at a certain point, they're playing from behind. But most of this game, they're either playing with a lead or playing within one score. I don't understand the balance. I don't understand the balance that's going on here when you say you want to play one way and then you're having success with it, but you don't do it enough. It felt like every drive would be, hey, Aaron Jones had an 11-yard run. Now they're in a false start, and now they're having to pass the ball. I feel like it was a lot of that. There's a lot of that happening in this game, and it was really, really a hard thing for me to reconcile in that moment. So I'm going to get to a couple more things over at Blue Sky. TK said you should start the podcast by mistake and add one more false start to that day. I would do that if everybody got the joke, but I think it's funnier just to say that. And back over on X, all these poorly coached, mistake-filled games are a blur. I said this is one of the most frustrating games I can remember. Aaron Rupar saying week 2 against Atlanta. Other people saying, what about the last 2 games last year? Yeah, I said one of. There's a lot to choose from, and there's a lot to choose from recently. That is the frustrating part. There's a lot of frustrating, poorly coached games to choose from recently. And I don't know what the way out of the box here is. I don't know if this gets worse before it gets better, if this is a function of a young quarterback, a discombobulated start to the season where you got Wentz in there for a while, where you're still trying to get McCarthy up to speed on some of these things that they haven't gotten him up to speed up of, because you can only learn so much. You have to, you can't do, VR does not tell you, training camp doesn't tell you what the actual rush of a game feels like. I still feel like he's learning a lot on the fly. It's going to be messy. I get that it's going to be messy. I'm not saying we expect perfection. I just saw too many things today that were indicative not just of a young quarterback, but of a team that doesn't have a clue in terms of how to be cohesive. That was frustrating. Independent says the route trees or play calling for a QB in his 4th game were just odd. It feels like they would get some stuff going, and then they would either go away from it, get a penalty, or both. So they just never really seemed to have a lot of kind of consistency. Didn't really seem like they had any kind of like sense of, of cohesion in this game. I mean, they moved the ball. They had 365 yards of offense. They ran 61 plays. You can't be inaccurate. You can't be how they were on 3rd down, 3 of 14. You can't be losing the turnover battle 3-0 like they did today. Like, just hallmarks of, even if we don't want to say a bad team, which I think at times they are a bad team, hallmarks of a team that just doesn't have whatever they had last year, where you watch them almost every game except until the end of the year when they looked sloppy. Last year, they looked like a team that knew what it was doing. The game against Detroit was really the first time, outside of that Cincinnati game, which is kind of fluky all around. The Detroit game was the first sense I had of, hey, this team knows what it's doing this year. And that was in their 9th game of the year. And then that was their 8th game of the year. And they went right back to being this team that can't get its act together in their 9th game of the year. They're 4-5 now. Their playoff chances vanishing by the minute. Bears won. Everybody else in the division is, up on them by a fair margin. You got a bunch of good teams in the NFC. Like, again, the season's mostly about McCarthy now and him learning. Even in that regard, this game was frustrating. This game was a difficult one to watch. So I don't know. I don't know where they go from here. I know the schedule probably gets a little bit more favorable at a certain point here. You probably don't have as many kind of things to worry about, but it's just frustrating because they had a chance in this game. They did a pretty good job on Lamar Jackson. They did a pretty good job defensively. Just self-inflicted stuff all throughout this game. And it comes down to they didn't look ready to play, whether that's on the players or the coaches. I think both of them get an equal share of the blame. They got to figure it out soon.